I'm Alex. I'm 23, still grinding through college. I've always been the kind of guy who stays in the background. Not the loudest guy in class, not the comic relief or the center of attention. But I watch. I listen. I notice things. I grew up in a sleepy little town just outside of Milwaukee. Nothing big ever happens here, which is probably why what I'm about to share still feels unreal. Even now, I've never been the type to stir the pot, always kept to the right side of the line. And at least until the day I rang the doorbell at my buddy's place and everything took a turn. Mike's one of my best friends. We hit it off freshman year like we'd known each other forever. He's the funny one. Always got a joke ready, always got people drawn in with that charm of his. We teamed up on a few class projects, spent weekends hanging out, gaming, doing the usual college stuff. I'd been to his house more times than I could count. It felt familiar, almost like a second home. That afternoon, we planned to meet up and knock out a business presentation for one of our classes. He texted me earlier saying he might be late because of a work shift, but told me to come by anyway. His mom would be around. I'd seen Sarah, his mom, a few times before. She always had this chill, easygoing vibe. The kind of mom who brewed great coffee, rocked old band teas, and treated Mike's friends like they mattered. She was in her early 40s, though. You wouldn't have guessed it. She had this timeless kind of beauty, soft features, sharp eyes, and a smile that somehow put you at ease right away. I pulled up to their place around 400 in the afternoon. Sun was still out, a light breeze blowing. It felt like any other laid-back day. I walked up, rang the doorbell, expecting Mike to answer. Instead, it was her. Sarah opened the door wearing nothing but an oversized white t-shirt that hit just above her thighs. No makeup. Her hair tossed up carelessly, and she wasn't wearing shoes. She looked like she'd just woken from a nap or maybe wrapped up cleaning. I froze for a second, not because she looked off. No, the opposite. She looked amazing without even trying. She tilted her head and smiled. "Oh, it's you," she said, casual as anything. "Come in. I'm alone." I don't know why that line hit me the way it did. She wasn't trying to be flirty, it was just honest. Still, those words echoed in my head. I'm alone. I stepped inside, trying to act like it was no big deal, but I couldn't ignore how the sunlight lit up the living room, especially the way it framed her figure. As she walked ahead of me, that t-shirt barely reached her thighs and my brain screamed, "Don't look!" But yeah, I looked just for a second. In the kitchen, she turned to me. "Ma, Mike's running late. I think he mentioned you might come by." She said, "You want something to drink? Coffee or iced tea?" "Iced tea sounds great," I replied, hoping my voice didn't betray me. She moved through this kitchen like it was second nature, opened the fridge, pulled out a picture, poured the drink, smooth, effortless. I sat at the kitchen island, tapping my fingers on the counter, trying not to let my eyes wander. But they did. Her legs, the way her shirt slipped off one shoulder. None of it seemed staged, and maybe that's what made it impossible to ignore. She passed me the glass and sat across from me. "So, how's school treating you?" she asked. I told her a bit about the project, how Mike and I were buried in work, worried about grades, internships, all that. She listened closely, nodding along as she sipped her drink. After a pause, she said, "You know, you're one of the few friends Mike brings around who actually seems grounded. You're calm. I like that." I wasn't sure how to respond, so I just smiled. "Thanks, I try." We sat in a quiet moment after that. Not awkward, just full, like something unspoken was in the air. Then she let out a small laugh. "Sorry, I must look like a total mess right now." I just threw this on, she said, tugging lightly at the hem of her shirt. I laughed nervously. You look fine. You look good. I mean, she cut me off with another laugh, gentle and playful. Relax, Alex, I'm just teasing. I could feel my face heat up. We ended up sitting there for nearly 40 minutes talking about everything music, books, and dumb stuff Mike did when he was younger. Somewhere along the line, I forgot I was talking to my friend's mom. It didn't feel romantic or physical. It just felt genuine, like we were two people who somehow just got each other. Mike eventually texted, said he'd be another hour. I looked at her. Should I come back later when he's back? She paused for just a beat, then said, Nah, stay. You're already here unless you've got somewhere else to be. I shook my head. Nope, I'm good. She smiled again, that warm, effortless kind of smile. Then stay. I've got some old movies if you're in the mood. Just something to pass the time, she said. We moved into the living room and she put on an old black and white movie I'd never seen before. She took one end of the couch, I took the other. For the most part, we just watched, but every now and then I'd catch her sneaking a glance in my direction. Once or twice I looked back. Nothing happened, not then anyway. But something shifted just a little. There was this quiet tension, like a line had been drawn between us. Neither of us crossed it, but we both knew it was there. I didn't expect to go back so soon, but after that visit I couldn't stop thinking about it. The way she looked at me, the tone in her voice, that a smile, and that one moment when our eyes met during the movie that stuck with me longer than I'd like to admit. Of course, I never said a word to Mike. How could I? He wouldn't get it. Hell, I barely understood it myself. A few days later, Mike hit me up again. Same deal. He had errands with his dumb and wouldn't be home for a bit. Told me I could swing by to pick up a flash drive we needed for our project. I paused for a second, and the next thing I knew, I was already driving there. I pulled into their driveway and just sat in my car for a minute, staring at the door. Part of me hoped she wouldn't be there. The other part wanted her to be. I knocked. She answered again, this time in jeans and a hoodie, hair down, still barefoot. Same easy smile. Alex, she said like she was actually glad to see me. Twice in 1 week. Mike's not home, though. Yeah, I know. He told me to grab a flash drive, I said. She stepped aside to let me in. It's probably on the counter. Want something to drink while you're here? I hesitated. Sure. We walked into the kitchen again. The lighting was soft and the air had that same warm, sweet scent. Vanilla, maybe cinnamon. She didn't try to command the space, but somehow it still felt like hers completely. She poured us both some water and leaned against the counter with her arms crossed. So, how's the project going? She asked. I shrugged. Honestly, it's a mess. Mike's been all over the place and I've been kind of distracted. We're behind, she grinned. College life, she said. I remember those days, late nights, caffeine overload, constant stress. I laughed. Yeah, that about sums it up. Then her face softened, turned more thoughtful. You ever feel like people expect you to have everything figured out already? She asked. All the time. I said, surprised she'd even bring that up. My folks think I'm wasting time with business classes. They wanted me to pick something stable. I'm not even sure what that means anymore. She nodded, slow and understanding. My dad was the same. Everything had to follow a plan, safe, structured. No room to breathe. There was a pause, not uncomfortable but heavy, like we both understood something without saying it out loud. She looked at me differently in that moment. Not like a college kid, but like someone who'd walked the same road she had. You know, she said, it's kind of nice talking to someone who actually listens. I could say the same, I told her. We drifted back into the living room without even saying anything, like we both just wanted to stay in whatever space we'd found. She took her spot at the far end of the couch. Just like before, I sat where I had last time, but this time she tucked her legs up on the cushion, turned slightly toward me. She looked more relaxed, maybe even a little exposed in a quiet way. She grabbed the remote and started flipping through the channels. "Another old movie?" I asked. "You always into the black and white stuff?" She smiled. "They remind me of simpler days. Less noise. People actually talked to each other back then." "You don't think people really talk anymore?" I asked. She looked right at me, held it for a beat. "Not really," she said. "Not like this." We didn't say anything for a while, just sat there, watching the screen flicker in front of us. Then she reached back and grabbed the throw blanket off the couch, tossed it onto my lap. "You looked cold," she said like it was nothing. I wasn't, but I let it stay there. And then she did something that caught me off guard. She leaned over and adjusted it just a little, her fingers brushing my knee. It wasn't an accident, but it wasn't obvious either. It was intentional, small, barely a touch, but it sent a ripple through me. I looked at her. She was already looking at me. Nothing playful this time, just something honest, something real. I cleared my throat. "Sarah, do you ever feel like she didn't let me finish?" Her hand landed on mine, soft, slow, purposeful. "I know what you're about to ask," she whispered. "And I don't know." We sat there in silence after that, one of those moments where everything feels stretched out. "I'm not trying to mess things up," I said. "I know you're not," she replied, her voice just above a whisper. She let go of my hand slowly, then stood. "I should get back to my laundry," she said with the faintest smile. "But I'm glad you standed by," she said. I stood too, not really sure what had just happened or if anything had. Still, something between us had shifted. You could feel it in the air, like that heavy electric stillness right before a summer storm. She walked me to the door and opened it. I turned thinking I might say something meaningful, but all that came out was, "Thanks for the drink." She gave a small smile. "Anytime, Alex." I stepped outside the door, clicking shut behind me, soft but final. As I made my way back to the car, I knew something had begun. Something I hadn't expected, and I didn't know how to stop it. Maybe I didn't want to. I didn't see Sarah for about a week after that. I tried pushing the whole thing out of my mind, what had almost happened on that couch, but it kept replaying. The way she touched my hand, the look she gave me, the way she said, "I know what you're about to say." That wasn't nothing. That wasn't in my head. Awe. Still, I tried to convince myself to let it go. She was Mike's mom. She was older. It wasn't supposed to happen, and that should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. Mike called me Thursday night, said he was heading to Chicago for the weekend to see his dad and wouldn't be around. Asked if I could swing by and grab a folder from his room or stuff for our project. It was late, getting close to 8. I hesitated but said sure. When I pulled into the driveway, my headlights cut through the blue edge of dusk. The house looked warm and inviting from the outside. Porch light was on and something twisted in my chest as I walked to the door. I knocked. Sarah answered, barefoot again, wearing a long white t-shirt just like the one from before. Maybe not the exact same, but close enough to notice. Her hair was down a little damp, like she'd just gotten out of the shower. She looked at me for a second, not surprised exactly, just aware. "Oh," she said softly. "It's you." "Mike asked me to grab a folder from his room," I explained. She stepped aside, opening the door wider. "Come in. I'm alone." Same words, but they landed different this time. I stepped inside. The air smelled clean soap and something warm like candles. The house was quiet. No TV, no music, just the hum of the fridge. "He's out of town, huh?" she asked as I made my way toward the stairs. "Yeah, Chicago." I paused halfway up and looked back. She was still standing near the door, watching me. "You want something before you go?" she asked. "Water? Wine?" I almost turned her down, but instead I said, "Wine sounds good." She nodded and walked to the kitchen. I followed. She poured 2 glasses of red and leaned back against the counter, sipping slow. I took mine and stood across from her. We talked about nothing important: music, memories, random stuff. She told me how quiet the house felt when Mike was gone. I told her how much I hated school deadlines. She laughed. We kept sipping. Then it got quiet, but not in a weird way, just still. She set her glass down and looked at me. Her expression changed. "Alex, can I ask you something?" "Yeah. Why'd you really come over?" I paused for Mike. She cut me off gently. "No, I mean why you could have asked him to send the file. Could have waited until he got back." I didn't answer. I couldn't lie. Not when she was looking at me like that. She stepped closer, one step, then another. "I've been thinking about you," she said, her voice low, steady since that last time. "I know it's wrong. I know I shouldn't, but I can't stop." I swallowed. My heart was thumping in my chest. "I've been thinking about you too," I admitted. We stood there face to face. The kitchen light flickered for half a second. She reached up and gently placed her hand on my chest. I didn't move. "You're so young," she whispered. "I know you're Mike's friend. I know I'm not supposed to want this. I know." She leaned in slowly, like she was giving me every chance to back away. I didn't. Our lips met soft at first, unsure, then again deeper. Her hands moved to my neck, then my back. Mine rested on her waist. The kiss was long, warm, and full of everything we hadn't said out loud. When we finally pulled apart, we just looked at each other, breathing quiet. Then she turned and covered her face with one hand. "This can't happen," she said. "We can't do this again." "I know," I said. "I'm sorry." "I'm not," she replied, looking back at me. "I'm not sorry it happened, but we have to be careful." I nodded. "I get it." She walked to the living room and sat on the couch. I followed. We didn't kiss again that night, didn't do anything more. We just sat there, close legs touching under the blanket. The TV was on, but neither of us was really watching. And when it got late, I stood up. "I should probably head out," I said. She walked me to the door like she had before, but this time, just as I stepped outside, she leaned in and whispered, "If you come back, come alone." I gave a quiet nod and the door shut behind me. I didn't tell anyone. Not Mike, not my buddies, not even myself if I'm being real. I didn't say the kiss out loud, didn't try to explain it. I just carried it like some quiet secret I wasn't supposed to hold on to, but couldn't put down either. The next time I saw Sarah wasn't planned. It was a late Sunday afternoon. Mike was still out of town. I was driving home from campus, worn out, not really thinking. And without realizing it, I turned on their street. No call, no text, just instinct. I pulled into the driveway, walked up, knocked. She opened the door and looked at me like she'd been waiting. Like she knew this was going to happen sooner or later. Same long t-shirt, same bare feet, same eyes, half hesitant, half wanting. Neither of us said a word. She stepped aside. I walked in. That day changed something. We never made promises. We didn't give it a name. It wasn't love. Not in the movie sense, but it was real in that quiet, burning way that hides behind casual glances, brushes of skin, things left unsaid. For the next month, I kept finding reasons to stop by when Mike was gone. Sometimes Sarah would text, sometimes I just showed up. And somehow she was always there waiting like the silence between us had never broken. We never rushed anything. It wasn't about the rush, it was about those slow, unspoken afternoons in the living room. I'd sit on the couch. She'd sit beside me. Her leg would touch mine under the blanket. She'd hand me coffee that tasted sweeter just because it came from her hand. Sometimes she'd lean into me during a movie, rest her head lightly on my shoulder. She'd laugh at something dumb I said about school. And sometimes we'd kiss gentle kisses that didn't ask for more. They just happened in the kitchen in the hallway once out back by the porch, while the sky turned soft and pink from the sunset. And through it all, we never talked about what it was because giving it a name would have made it real, too risky. I remember one night especially, she had music playing, something slow, something old. She wore a loose sweatshirt, sleeves tugged over her hands. We sat close on the couch and I told her how I didn't want to follow in my dad's footsteps, how construction just wasn't me, even if it's what he expected. She listened without interrupting, eyes locked on mine the whole time. Then she said, "You make me feel like I'm still more than just somebody's mom." That hit deeper than I expected. You are so much more. We kissed again, longer this time. Her hands cupped my face like she needed that connection. And I let her because I did too. But even in the warmth, I could feel it, the edge creeping in closer. Every time we touched, we knew. The line we'd been dancing around wasn't going to stay invisible forever. We never mentioned Mike, not once. That was our only rule, unspoken but firm. This space we shared, he didn't exist in it. Then one afternoon I was watching her make tea and something hit me I hadn't expected. I didn't want it to end, but I knew it had to. We were on borrowed time. Every kiss, every glance, every laugh. It was all a risk, a quiet gamble. Then one day she turned and looked at me differently. "You know, this can't last, right?" I nodded. "I know. I don't want anyone to get hurt," she said. "Especially not Mike. We've already gone too far. I know, but I don't regret it." "Me neither," I said. And then came the silence again. Not painful, just full, like we both understood. That week we saw each other twice. Both times were soft, warm, like a goodbye that wasn't said, but felt. We kissed slower, held on a little longer, smiled more gently. And when I left her house for the last time, she didn't walk me out. She stayed curled up on the couch blanket over her shoulders, legs tucked beneath her. "You'll do something good with your life, Alex," she said. "I know you will." I stood there, stuck between staying and walking away. Then she added, "And this, whatever this was, it mattered to me." I nodded. It mattered to me too. I opened the door myself, stepped out and closed it behind me. That was the last time I was ever in her house alone. After that, everything went quiet. No messages, no surprise visits, no more afternoons on the couch or quiet conversations over coffee. I kept wondering if she'd reach out just once, even something simple like, "Hope you're doing okay." But she never did, and neither did I. I kept my head down. Finals were coming up, so I threw myself into school. Mike came back from Chicago, and just like that, everything between us returned to normal. Like none of it had ever happened. Like I hadn't spent the past month living in a hidden world inside his house. Just a few doors down from where he slept. It felt strange. I'd sit next to him working on assignments, pretending like I wasn't remembering every quiet step I'd taken down that hallway, knowing Sarah was waiting for me in the living room. She disappeared into the background. If she was home, I didn't see her. Once in a while, I'd hear her voice upstairs or catch a glimpse of her walking past the doorway. But there were no looks, no lingering glances, just space. And I got it. That chapter was over. What we had, however brief, was delicate, temporary. Trying to drag it forward would have wrecked whatever was left standing. She had a life, a son, a home. And me, I was just a college kid caught between being young and trying to figure out what the hell came next. As much as we needed each other in that moment, we both knew where the road ended. Still, the silence left a mark. A week passed, then two. One Saturday afternoon, I dropped by Mike's place to grab a notebook I'd left behind. He was at the gym and told me to let myself in. The door, as always, was unlocked. I stepped inside. The house was quiet still. I made my way through the hallway, and just as I reached for the notebook on the counter, I heard her voice behind me. Alex. I turned. She was standing at the bottom of the stairs, hair tied back, no makeup, hoodie and leggings. She looked tired but kind. Hey, I said, my voice softer than I expected. She nodded. How have you been busy? I said, you the same. A pause followed that silence between us, the one we'd gotten used to. But this time it didn't feel heavy. It just felt honest. I wasn't sure I'd ever see you again, she said. I didn't think I would either, I answered. She walked over slowly and leaned against the kitchen counter across from me. Her arms crossed, eyes dropping to the floor, then back to mine. I've thought a lot about what happened, she said. So have I. I just want you to know I'm not ashamed of it. I don't regret it. I nodded. Me neither. We needed something, she said. Maybe we didn't know it at the time, but we did, and I'm glad it was you. I looked at her and said, I'm glad it was you too. We stood there across from each other, just a few feet between us, but everything unsaid hung in that space like a quiet goodbye. I'm not someone who does things like that, she said, and it scared me how easy it felt with you. It felt easy, I told her, because it was right for what it was. She gave a small smile. Yeah, it was. Another pause, but this one felt calm, peaceful. Mike doesn't know, she said, and he never will. That matters to me. I'd never tell him, I said. Ever. I know. She stepped forward at once, then reached out and gently touched my hand just for a moment. A final gesture, a quiet thank you. Take care of yourself, Alex. You too, Sarah. And that was it. She stepped back. I grabbed my notebook and walked toward the door. I didn't look behind me. When I got in my car and started it up, I didn't feel heartbreak. I didn't feel broken. I felt settled, like whatever this thing between us had been. It ended the only way it could have, at the right time, in the right way. No drama, no promises, no begging or goodbyes in the rain, just something rare, something beautiful, something untouched by all the outside noise, tucked away in time where the world couldn't reach it. It never happened again. We never talked about it. We never brought it up. But sometimes when I drive past her street or hear one of those old songs she liked, I think about those days and I smile, because I knew her, the real her. And for a little while, she knew me too. In the quiet corners of our lives, stories like Alex's remind us of a profound truth. Some connections are fleeting, yet they etch indelible marks on our souls, teaching us the beauty of impermanence. What began as an innocent visit to a friend's house blossomed into an unexpected bond between a young college student and his buddy's mom, a relationship built not on grand declarations of love, but on shared silences, gentle touches, and raw vulnerability. It wasn't about defying norms or chasing forbidden thrills. It was about two people finding solace in each other during moments of loneliness and uncertainty. Sarah, with her timeless grace, showed Alex that life isn't always about rigid plans or societal expectations. It's about embracing the unexpected, even if it means letting go before it shatters everything around you. Their affair, hidden in stolen afternoons and whispered confessions, highlights how we often stumble upon profound growth in the most unlikely places. It teaches us to cherish those ephemeral sparks that ignite our hearts, reminding us that true value lies not in longevity, but in authenticity. In a world obsessed with forever, Alex and Sarah's story urges us to honor the temporary, the quiet conversations that make us feel seen, the tender kisses that heal unseen wounds, and the courage to walk away when love risks becoming pain. It's a poignant lesson that life's most meaningful chapters often end softly, without fanfare, leaving us wiser, more compassionate, and grateful for the fleeting magic that shapes who we are. We don't always need dramatic closures or happily ever afters. Sometimes a gentle goodbye is the greatest gift we can give ourselves and others. If this story touched your heart or sparked memories of your own hidden moments, drop a comment below. Share what life lesson you've learned from unexpected connections. And if you want more real-life tales that pull at the heartstrings, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Let's keep the conversation going. Seat.